It's really hard to conceptualize just how big Tokyo was, and I hadn't even realized that we had planned our Tokyo stint in two slices in order to get a full view of the city, because of how long it would take to visit one side from the other side of it. So finally, we were on the side of Tokyo that was closer to Harajuku, and I am so excited to have been able to visit because one of the first things that I really got obsessed about in Japan was the fashion. And I know that we've kind of gone past the era of Lolita clothing and cosplay on the streets, but I was so excited to walk down this area, and of course, I was excited about the snacks. So we walked past a lot of coffee shops, a lot of places that sold crepes, as well as giant cotton candies, what they're called like twisted potatoes on sticks, boba, pretty much anything that was cute and easy to walk with. Again, something that you probably wouldn't expect in Japan is that you don't really eat while you're walking. Like walking with food, no one really does. And a lot of places that sell food on the street want you to eat in a specific area or not in that area at all, which can make it kind of hard to buy when you're planning on walking around. So for this reason, we kind of liked getting sit-down meals more. But during this area, it didn't seem like it was a huge issue to be walking around with a boba or with a small snack. So after walking through the street a little bit and looking at some of the fashion, we stopped for some boba at a store that sold a lot of really good flavors. But of course, I've been having pretty much just matcha the entire time I've been here. The koi is actually one that's available in Cambodia as well, and there's a couple of them in Atlanta, so I really enjoyed seeing something familiar, flavors that I knew. We also decided to get lunch at a sushi bar, which, I really love the revolving sushi places. So, what really thought was funny for me was the Demon Slayer decorations, which one of my kids that I nannied for back home would have absolutely loved. After lunch, though, we decided to walk around some more, and there are some malls within walking distance. All the malls are very vertical, not very horizontal, not very spread out. So instead of having like two floors that are pretty wide, all the malls I've been to in Asia, not just Japan, but also Cambodia, have been relatively small and compressed with like 7 or 8 floors. And I did really love the installations of art in all of them. Pretty much every mall we've been to has been really recognizable for either its architecture or the art involved inside. I like this one a lot because of the mirrors. I'm just a real sucker for mirror art, and it really made the escalator ride interesting when it didn't have to be. I have to admit, out of all the restaurants we go to, the sushi bars are usually the most user friendly because of the way that the tablets are dual language and really easy to figure out with the pictures that you tap. So I do want to point out that if you go to Japan, and you should really, really make use of all the sushi bars that are around, especially because they're easy to use. Finally, that night we did some walking around, and I have to admit, I did not expect it to be so chilly in the middle of May. I definitely would recommend bringing a jacket and not just assuming it to be warm, warm weather because it's not. Um, I do think that it's also really nice just to make sure that you go out when it's early, just because the trains and everything shut down pretty early too. So for me in Prague, you could stay out literally all night and still get home. You might wait a little bit longer for a train, but it would still be there. That's not the case here. If you are out past the last train, you are walking, you are stuck, or you're paying for a very expensive cab. While we were walking around, we were intending to find a sake bar to go to, but I think it was closed down and we couldn't get any directions. So we went to a British pub instead called The Hub, and I'm a sucker for British pubs. They're everywhere. I can't tell if they're realistic to Britain or not because I've only ever been to British pubs that are not in Britain. But the drinks here were really good and really affordable. One of my favorite parts about Asia, honestly, is that the food and the drinks are so affordable. Our last stop before we went back to the hotel was to go to a Don Quixote. Basically, it's Walmart but in Japan, except it sells everything. Literally everything, including an adult section. But it was really interesting to me because, again, instead of being flat, these buildings go up. So you had like 8 floors of this place with groceries and stuff on the bottom, and then you had household wares, shopping stuff, souvenirs, and the best part, of course, is that they have a duty-free area, which is so cool because you don't really recognize the taxes because they're not that expensive. But when you're buying a large amount of stuff, like for example, bringing home a bunch of Kit Kats or souvenirs, it adds up and it definitely makes you, it makes sense to watch out for those numbers. I really enjoyed coming here just to see what was like a building that, like a store that we'd heard about, you know, like it's like when people come to the US and they're like, Walmart, it's just Walmart for us, but it's a thing that is distinctly Japanese in a very mundane way. I definitely recommend it if you have not gotten souvenirs for people, like if you're going for an extended amount of people and they're asking for like specific touristy things. They had tote bags, postcards, sandals, jackets, literally everything at an affordable price, and you didn't have to haggle or worry about being overcharged because there's stores like this literally everywhere. All in all, I really enjoyed this day walking around. I know we do a lot of shopping in these videos, but it's just so nice to be able to walk around and look at everything and just really get a sense of what it's like to live in an area, because how the best way to do that is through shopping and food, because everyone has to eat and everyone has to buy crap.